Počinje još jedno izdanje Jazeera Svijeta. Ja sam Azra Hadžić. U ovoj emisiji gledajte. Pojačani napadi i humanitarna kriza u Gazi. Svakodnevno deseci ubijenih i povrijeđenih, među njima najviše žena i djece. Koji je pravi razlog zbog kojeg je Trump bacio oko na Grenland i šta to znači za ljude koji tamo žive? Pad broja katolika u najvećoj katoličkoj zemlji na svijetu. Nacija podijeljena između nade u katoličku obnovu s novim papom i straha od ubrzanog pada. Izrael je pojačao napade na pojas Gaze uprkos sve glasnim pozivima saveznika na trenutni prekid vatre. Mete su bolnice i skloništa prisilno raseljenih Palestinaca. Okupacijske snage blokiraju ulazak i distribuciju humanitarne pomoći. Bolnički radnici kažu da su medicinske zalihe pri kraju. Al Jazeera je razgovarala s jednim tehničarom hitne pomoći o djeci žrtvama rata.
تخيل تكون قاعد بين أهلك فجأة ظلام فيش صوت صمت ولا حد بيحكي فجأة اللي أنت في المستشفى مصاب قول يا رب يا رب فجأة أخوك استشهد عمك استشهد أختك استشهد الأمر صعب جدا لكن قدر المستطاع كنا يعني نعطي لهؤلاء إنه الحمد لله أنت بخير إحنا راضين بقدر الله شد عيدي قوي شد عيدي قوي شد عيدي قوي أنا الحكيم محمد سعيد الشيخ من قسم الاستقبال والطوارئ كان كثير من الأطفال يجونا اللي مبتورة إيده أطفال تجينا متمزقة يعني أحشائه بالشظايا أطفال تجينا حروق يعني بنحكي على الحروق على جزئية الحروق كبيرة جدا كانوا يجوا يعانوا من ألم شديد فيش أي مسكن في غزة بيوقف هذا الألم
مجهول اكتب عليها مجهول واحد
الأطفال ما بتتحمل هاي الاستهدافات والطفل مش زي الراجل ما بيقدر يعبر عن وجعه لازم إنه إحنا نتعامل معهم رعاية خاصة
نفسي أكون إيش أطلع دكتور
بعض الفعاليات البسيطة بعض الحلويات البسيطة بعض الألعاب رغم قلة تواجد هذه الأشياء لأن كنا نقوم بهذا الدعم النفسي لهؤلاء الأطفال لتغيير يعني النفسية ولبعض تخفيف عن الجراح والألم لهؤلاء الأطفال
عشان كنت شاطرة وبطلة إن شاء الله بتصير دكتورة ثانية
أحيانا بعض الأطفال كنا لما أحتضن هذا الطفل يشعر بأمان لدرجة أنه يعني لا أنسى أحد الأطفال بعد 6 ساعات طفل عمره لا يتجاوز 2 سنين 6 ساعات تحت الأنقاض جابوا له الاستقبال والطوارئ بعد ما مسكت الطفل بس هيك بكل قوة شد في إيدي وفي جسمي يعني هذا الطفل كان يعني يحتاج إلى حضن بسيط حتى يهدأ روعه رغم أنه هذا الحضن يشفي القليل من هذا الألم والرعب اللي شافه لكن هذا الدعم النفسي كان يعني كفيل بأنك تهدئ من روع هؤلاء الأطفال.
Svake godine u maju Palestinci obilježavaju nagbu ili veliku katastrofu i progon nakon uspostave države Izrael. Čile je dom najveće palestinske dijaspore izvan Bliskog istoka. Tamo živi više od 500 000 Palestinaca. Jedna od njih je Laila Bejtro, čija je porodica izbjegla iz Palestine 1948. nakon masakra u Deir Jasinu. Ovo je njena priča.
Soy Laila Bejtro, nacida en Palestina, en Ramallah. Mi familia vivía toda su vida en Jaffa, la costa de Palestina. Después de todo, a Ramallah. Era la única parte que cerca que salieron caminando. Y un día, una matanza muy grande que pasó en Deir Yassin. Era la primera matanza que habían hecho, había como para meter el terror y que salgan la gente. Se cerró mi papá, mi mamá la llave, mi papá tenía la llave allí. Siempre la tenían colgada en la muralla.
¿Por qué?
Con la idea que va a volver, pero nunca volvió. Después murió de pena. Murió de pena cuando ellos se fueron a Ramallah, nos recibieron por ser católicos, la iglesia católica, la que está ubicada hasta ahora. Y allí nací yo, nació un primo hermano El Nakba cae justo en mayo. Yo en mayo nací. Entonces me junta como dos cosas. La alegría de nacimiento y la pena de dejar mi madre, a donde nacieron, a donde vivieron, donde tienen toda su historia, hasta el mínimo detalle que comieron y cómo dormían. Me casé en Jordania, vine a vivir aquí a Chile porque mi marido era palestino, pero vivía aquí en Chile. Mis hijos se sienten palestinos totalmente, están muy marcados en la manera, les gustan trabajar, pero son de bajo perfil. Pero a mí me gusta trabajar, difícil, muy difícil. Todo pasando de nuevo, el miedo es terrible, en Cisjordania está pasando, en mismo Jordania. Yo siempre me comunico casi toda la semana con la esperanza, no idea, la esperanza que hay posibilidad de un día reconocer un Estado palestino que sea 1 metro cuadrado con la bandera.
U narednim minutama ćemo o još jednoj temi koja je u međunarodnom fokusu. Kada je Donald Trump počeo svoj drugi mandat, skrenuo je pažnju na jedan vrlo iznenađujući kutak svijeta – Grenland. Što je toliko posebno u vezi s ovim rijetko naseljenim otokom na vrhu svijeta? I bi li Grenland mogao postati žarište globalnog sukoba u narednih nekoliko godina? U nastavku analiza Al Jazeera Plus.
This is Greenland, home to about 57,000 people, the vast majority of whom, over 88%, are indigenous Greenlandic Inuit. The territory became a colony of Denmark in the 1700s, then became a district in 1953. In 1979, the territory was granted home rule, which established Greenland's own parliament and gave it increased autonomy in some areas.
Flagene er endnu røde og hvide, men som det hjemmestyrede Færøerne vendte sig til Grønland og få sit eget flag.
Over the last several decades, it has been slowly gaining more and more sovereignty from Denmark. Greenlanders also called for independence during their March 2025 elections.
I think it's about time that we kind of move on and see that independence is the way forward for the Greenlandic people, because we've been waiting for a long time for it.
Today, Greenland has found itself in the middle of rising tensions between Denmark and the United States.
We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
Greenland is today a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. It's a part of our territory, and it's not for sale.
But what's the real reason that the United States is eyeing Greenland? And what does this mean for the people who live there? Before President Donald Trump was even sworn in for his second term, he made it clear that one of his goals would be acquiring Greenland from its current owners, Denmark. When he announced his pick for ambassador to Denmark, Trump even dedicated a line in his statement about the importance of US ownership and control of Greenland. He even reportedly said this directly to Denmark's Prime Minister during a phone call in January. Interestingly, Trump isn't the first US official to be interested in acquiring the territory. Then Secretary of State William Seward floated the idea in the 19th century, around the same time the US acquired Alaska from what was then called the Russian Empire. But Trump's persistence shows that he might be the first since then who really means it. Trump actually made similar overtures during his first term. In 2019, he even tweeted this image of a Trump tower edited into a Greenlandic fishing town, along with the caption, "I promise not to do this to Greenland." Back then, he mused about offering to buy Greenland from Denmark. But this time, he's escalated. He's threatened to put massive tariffs on Denmark and hasn't ruled out using the military to take Greenland. Even if these threats don't come to pass, they're a sign of Trump's massive interest in Greenland. So why does he think the stakes are so high? Well, here's how he puts it.
We need Greenland because of national security, international security, world peace.
But here's the thing. The US has already had a military presence on Greenland for a long time. At one point during the Cold War, it had built as many as 50 military bases on the territory. One of those bases, formerly known as Thule, now known as Bidufik, is still in operation today. In fact, Denmark welcomed that US base from the start. even at the expense of Greenlanders. See, shortly after the base was built, the United States needed space for anti-aircraft missiles to defend the new installation. So what did it do? It called on Denmark to clear out the local population. The Danish government removed 100 Greenlandic Inuits from their homes, giving locals just 3 days to pack all their belongings and leave. Through this base, Denmark still grants the US tons of military rights in Greenland. Historically, the US has exercised these rights by doing things like storing nuclear missiles under the ice. And because of this relationship, one Danish military analyst has described Trump's push as knocking down a door that is open to the US. And if you're wondering why the US has its eyes on a territory all the way up here, it's helpful to shift your perspective a bit. AJ Plus spoke to Jennifer Spence, director of the Arctic Initiative at Harvard Kennedy School, about why Greenland matters so much to the US.
If you look at a map from the top of the world, you get a fundamentally sort of different view, which is you have US and Russia are actually neighbors, right? So during the Cold War, Thule Air Base was where there was a lot of investment in Greenland to have the military infrastructure for response and defense and deterrence, all that kind of thing. So militarily and security perspective, there's that sort of strategic location element of it.
Today, Trump has echoed this same logic to justify his territorial ambitions.
I'm talking about protecting the free world. You look at, you don't even need binoculars. You look outside, you have China ships all over the place. You have Russian ships all over the place. We're not letting that happen.
But if this is Trump's concern, wouldn't the US military's current presence be enough of a deterrent? Here's the thing, as it stands, the US's current position in Greenland depends on a partnership not just with Denmark, but with all of Europe. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, more commonly known as NATO.
To Western Europe.
NATO is a military alliance established in 1949 at the beginning of the Cold War to unite the capitalist countries of Western Europe and North America against the Soviet Union and its allies. The United States and Denmark were both founding members of NATO, having both signed the treaty in 1949. A key part of that treaty is Article 5, which considers an attack on one member as an attack on all members. So when Trump threatens the possibility of using force against Greenland, he's not just threatening Denmark, but nearly all of the US's Western allies. That would rip up the military alliance that has upheld the US's global position since the end of World War II.
I don't think Europe's solely focused on what this means for Europe because of Greenland. They're thinking more about this from what does this mean for what we can expect from an ally and partner in terms of international relations generally. And if it might be Greenland today, but what will it be tomorrow?
Even the EU's top general has said that troops should be sent to Greenland to deter an American attempt to seize the territory. So what could possibly make the risks that Trump is taking worth it? Let's see what Trump has said about Greenland outside of its national security importance.
You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two. But I can say this. We need them for economic security.
So when it comes to economic security in the Arctic region, there are a few things that Trump could be talking about. The first, Arctic trade routes. See, projections show that the North Pole could be free of summer ice by 2035, and this will supposedly open up trade routes in the Arctic. But it's not as simple as melting ice. Spence says that if Arctic trade increased, those routes would need more infrastructure, like resupply points and emergency management teams that are ready to respond and support ships. Currently, these systems don't exist.
There's no infrastructure or very little infrastructure to support that kind of massive change in shipping.
But the other economic opportunity in Greenland is much more immediate.
The rocks here hold some of the world's richest deposits of rare earth minerals.
These minerals are vital for various products like wind turbines, electric car batteries, and even computers. But they're also used in military weapons like cruise missiles and smart bombs. And the climate crisis is making it easier to access Greenland's untapped rare earth minerals. One country currently dominates the rare earth mineral market: China. The country accounts for 80% of the world's mined supply of these elements. That's why both the Trump and Biden administrations have courted or expressed interest in Greenland's minerals. But guess what?
China several years ago expressed interest in rare earth minerals in Greenland. There was some overtures made.
Denmark's dangling Greenland's resources in front of China, as well as the bigger prize of access to the Arctic.
But ultimately, China was unsuccessful in getting a foothold, and frankly, part of that was the West's concern about China having access and having control over rare earth minerals in Greenland.
Now, while Greenland is home to massive amounts of untapped mineral wealth, and even thought to have massive oil and gas reserves, many Greenlanders are hesitant to embrace these extraction projects.
We, as a tourist nation, try to brand ourselves as a green and pristine place in the world. We don't want that image to be tarred by environmental hazards.
The territory's 2021 elections centered around a major uranium mining project. The party opposed to uranium mining won. Later that year, Greenland banned uranium mining, disappointing other countries hoping for exports. And while some Greenlanders are actually in favor of extraction projects, even those who want Greenland to capitalize on its resources aren't interested in becoming part of the United States.
We shouldn't be bought by anyone because Greenland is not for sale and Greenland will not be for sale, but we can have a closer collaboration on business development with the US.
Of course, some US officials disagree.
And the ambassador said, well, Greenland's not for sale. I said, that's fine. Everything's for sale. We're going to have a conversation.
Ultimately, Greenland has said, you know, we want to partner with people. We want to be part of a healthy economy. And you don't need to own a country in order to get access to those rare earth minerals.
And so while Trump would like his base to believe that
the people are going to probably vote for independence or to come into the United States,
the reality is quite different. In fact, 85% opposed joining the United States in a recent poll. Surveys also show that when it comes to international partnerships, many Greenlanders would welcome a closer relationship with neighbouring Arctic countries like Canada and Iceland. It's also important to note here that Greenland's main political parties all support eventual independence from Denmark.
Vi vil ikke være danskere, vi vil ikke være amerikanere, vi vil selvfølgelig være grønlændere. Og selvfølgelig er det den grønlandske folk, som bestemmer deres fremtid.
And when you look at Greenland's history with Denmark, it's no surprise why. Like other colonial powers, Denmark has a history of human rights abuses against the indigenous population of Greenland that has not been fully reconciled. These abuses include the mass sterilization of indigenous women and girls, and even the removal of Inuit children from their families. Both these campaigns reportedly went on for decades.
Every night I was crying.
Helena was among 22 Inuit children chosen for a social experiment carried out by Danish authorities in 1951. The goal was to turn orphan children into members of a modern Greenland, but not all of them were orphans.
Greenland has had the ability to pursue independence since 2009, when Denmark passed a law granting the territory more political autonomy. If Greenland does decide to seek independence, it would be able to negotiate terms with the Danish government, and the final deal would need to be approved by the Danish parliament and a referendum in Greenland.
Jeg mærker et stærkt ønske hos mange grønlændere om at bevæge sig hen imod selvstændighed. Det er i mine øjne både legitimt, det er også forståeligt, og det er et ønske, som jeg har stor respekt for.
But the main thing holding Greenland back from invoking this law is its current financial and military dependence on Denmark.
I'm actually really concerned that we would become independent too soon, because I'm scared of our economy and who would be able to lift up society.
Half of Greenland's annual budget, which funds social services such as its free healthcare system, comes from Denmark's central government. Concerns over losing that funding when it becomes independent leads some in Greenland to actually welcome greater resource extraction in partnership with other countries. They think that this wealth could one day sustain their independence.
Greenland's been very clear that it's interested in, managing its resources, and that it's willing to partner in the management of its resources. So this is not a closed economy that's saying everybody stay out, this is just ours. They're more than happy to partner, but presumably, like any country, they want to do it on their own terms.
That last bit might be why Trump wants the US to own Greenland outright, so that the US, and not the people of Greenland, would have final say. Greenlanders have long sought to claim independence from Denmark, but that challenge has become even more daunting now that an even more powerful country is moving to take Denmark's place.
Dužnosnici administracije Donalda Trumpa razmatraju promjenu kojom bi se odgovornost za sigurnosne interese SAD-a na Grenlandu prebacila na vojnu komandu koja nadzire odbranu američkog teritorija. Grenland bi bio prebačen iz zone odgovornosti Evropske komande SAD-a u sjevernu komandu, što bi simbolično razdvojilo Grenland od Danske, koja bi dalje bila pod nadzorom Evropske komande SAD-a. Američki zvaničnici naredili su obavještajnim agencijama da pojačaju napore u prikupljanju obavještajnih podataka o Grenlandu. Wall Street Journal prvi je objavio da je američka vlada uputila obavještajce da istraže pokrete za neovisnost na Grenlandu, percepcije o američkom interesu za resurse otoka te da identificiraju ljude koji podržavaju ciljeve Vašingtona. Ovaj potez izazvao je prigovore Danske. Dok Trump želi preuzeti kontrolu nad Grenlandom, taj arktički otok želi proširiti saradnju s Evropskom unijom u sferi ključnih minerala i energije. Ispod grenlandskog ledenog terena je 40 od 50 ključnih minerala koje SAD smatra ključnima za svoju nacionalnu sigurnost. Resursi od uranija do grafita ključni su za proizvodnju i globalne lance opskrbe. Količina i raznovrsnost minerala još je neistražena i neiskorištena. Zvaničnici Trumpove administracije kažu da nalazišta minerala ostaju neiskorištena zbog nedostatka radne snage, oskudnog infrastrukturnog okruženja i raznih drugih izazova. Tvrde da SAD pomaže Grenlandu da diversificira svoju ekonomiju i stekne veću ekonomsku neovisnost od Danske. Pod alternativnim planom koji se razmatra, Trumpova administracija predložila bi grenlandskim čelnicima specijalni status, kakav imaju pojedini otoci u Tihom okeanu. Takozvanim sporazumom o slobodnom udruživanju SAD nude osnovne usluge, dok za uzvrat američka vojska slobodno djeluje, a trgovina sa SAD-om uglavnom je oslobođena carina. Molitvama i svečanostima u Brazilu pozdravljaju izbor novog pape. Ali mnogi se pitaju mijenja li se religiozna duša nacije. Katolicizam, nekada dominantan, sada dijeli prostor s brzo rastućim evangeličkim crkvama i novom generacijom koja se udaljava od religijskih načela. Nacija je podijeljena između nade u katoličku obnovu s novim papom i straha od ubrzanog pada. Monika Janakijev ima detalje.
Nedeljna misa u svetištu Gospe od Aparecide, zaštitnice Brazila. Tisuće ljudi slave novog papu, moleći se za čuda.
A gente espera que ele prossiga, o legado do Papa, que Francisco, que continue levando, o povo de Deus,
Bazilika je druga najveća na svijetu nakon Svetog Petra u Vatikanu, spomenik vjeri u najvećoj katoličkoj zemlji na svijetu. 300 km dalje u Rio de Janeiru, Krist otkupitelj otvorio je ruke novom papi. Ali izvan kultnog kipa, brazilski duhovni krajolik se mijenja. Katolici su i dalje većina, ali njihov broj se smanjuje. Dok se crkva bori s obukom i slanjem novih svećenika koji bi doprli do zajednice, evanđeoski kršćani su se uključili, kucajući na vrata u opasnim četvrtima poput ove, koji kontroliraju trgovci drogom.
Eu acredito que o trabalho evangelístico é maior, né? Acho que a igreja católica ela tem uma metodologia de trabalho evangelístico.
Najveća favela u Latinskoj Americi ima 8 katoličkih kapela, ali više od 100 protestantskih crkava. Evanđeoski kršćani sada čine trećinu brazilskog stanovništva i dobivaju politički utjecaj.
A gente já tem evangélicos e católicos quase empatados, mas quem cresce mesmo é o sem religião. Então o sem religião já vai para 35% daqueles com menos de 20 anos. Com menos de 30 anos. Isso é problema, porque o que a gente está vendo hoje é a Igreja Católica perdendo espaço para o evangélico, mas o cara é cristão.
Natrag u bazilici, Rui Telban je doveo svoju djecu i unuke, ali kaže da je vjerojatno posljednji od njih koji će ići u crkvu.
Outros interesses, talvez, né? Ou, sei lá, celular e coisa arada.
Većina Brazilaca i dalje kaže da su vjernici, ali mnogi se slažu da će trebati više od molitvi i svijeća da bi se vjera održala živom.
Last April, then Cardinal Robert Prevost had planned a retreat here in Aparecida with Brazil's bishops. It was cancelled after Pope Francis died. Now, as Pope Leo XIV, many here hope he will return as a sign of attention to the region, but also to keep the faithful from drifting away. Monica Yanakiev, Al Jazeera, Aparecida, Brazil.
Ovom pričom završavamo emisiju, koju možete pronaći na našem portalu balkans.aljazeera.net. Do naredne nedjelje, doviđenja.